Hi Sarah, so here's our first attempt at verbal feedback. You'll have to let me know if you like it, if it works well for you, if you're able to get as much information out of it, okay? So I see that you're looking at 7th grade language arts, and specifically, so the prior content knowledge is how to complete a graphic organizer. I think that's realistic. And your lesson plan is going to focus on how to support an argument. Well chosen. I appreciate the fact that you dug through the standards and went into the evidence outcomes. So we're looking for a lesson plan where students write arguments to support claims and generate support from a variety of primary and secondary sources. Nice. Okay, so your essential question in the content area then is, what is the purpose of primary and secondary sources, and how does organization act as a bridge? Excellent. Those are really nice content area questions. They're well aligned with your goals. Okay. And ooh, I like your essential global question too. What is the value in advocating for oneself? Very nice. I think that's a great question to ask kids, and I think it's something that kind of gets their creativity flowing. It gets their brains engaged a little bit in what you're doing. Even if they're not going to answer out loud, that's a good question. I hope to actually see that in the learning part of your lesson plan. Okay. Your students will be able to find and properly use relevant evidence for their essay and to use primary and secondary sources. Those are well aligned to your evidence outcomes. It might be helpful if you put a by clause on these objectives so that the students knew exactly what it was that you were expecting of them. So at the end of the lesson, you know whether a student met an objective or not. So you say find and properly use relevant evidence for their essay. How are you going to know that they do that? Here, your formative assessment, a T-list of primary and secondary sources. Oh, okay. Here's how it goes then. Find and properly use relevant evidence for their essay by completing their T-chart. Okay? Your students will understand, is also well aligned, the importance of the primary sources. Excellent. I like your formative assessment. I'm a big fan of graphic organizers, especially for middle school kids. And your summative assessment is a brief outline. Excellent, good, nicely done. Okay, so let's look at the learning plan. All right. Okay. Oh, beautiful hook. I love it. This will be very effective for 7th graders. How many of you have gotten into an argument where you knew you were right, but you couldn't tell the other person why? You will create yourself a beautiful problem here. You'll have, 82 stories that kids want to share, and they'll take your whole class if you don't watch them. But that's fantastic. Great way to start the lesson, okay? I like the fact that you've got a scenario here to kind of grab them and guide them forward. You're trying to decide which one is better. Arguing based on opinions doesn't get you anywhere. So, ooh, look at this beautiful transition. So, we're going to look at 2 different ways to get that information to actually prove your opinion. Wow, Sarah, nice. I like it. All right, so here's your instructional piece. Define primary sources, define secondary sources. Okay, what are the kids doing while you're given this information? Are they to be note-taking while you're writing on the board? Are you passing out worksheets to them? Make sure you get all those nitty-gritty pieces in here for the instructional piece, all right? And then your model. Excellent. So you're going to have them create a T-chart, primary and secondary sources, and ask for example of primary sources. Excellent. And you've got some answers ready for them as well. Good. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have them dig a little bit deeper, so each time the kids gave you an answer, so someone says your answer right here, diary. Good. Tell me why that's a primary source and not a secondary source. As opposed to journal. Good. Tell me why that's a secondary source and not a primary source. So that they're not just randomly throwing information at you, but, sorry while I scroll for just a minute, so that they're really using clear reasoning and relevant evidence, right? Having them practice that skill with you verbally, all right? Good. So now come up with some other ideas, at least 4 examples in each column. Nice. I like that. That's very nice and measurable. Great. And then your homework, create a brief outline of a paragraph using specific quotes that you and the class find in a text together. pardon me, state whether your sources are primary or secondary. Your outline should include at least one of both. You left me behind. I'm going to scroll a little bit more. You left me behind a little bit on this. What text are the kids going to be using? What is the prompt for the paragraph? And then are you looking for them to use specific quotes as evidence for their claim? Or what? So, okay, so clean these instructions up a little bit. Think of Doug Lemov's double planning notion, right? You've got 7th graders sitting in front of you. You know, some of those kids are going to be 12 years old. How do you need to break this down and explain it so that they go, oh, that's what you want me to do. Okay. You know, so break these instructions down a little bit more, be a little more succinct in those, all right? I like your verbal check for understanding before you leave. It's a nice way to close the lesson and not just the class. Overall, Sarah, really nice job. I like what you did here. I think that you scaffolded the kids in well. I think that you engaged them well. You know, I want to see you press them a little harder, right? You know, getting them to really justify some of their answers. When it comes down to this section that I'm highlighting right now. And then I want to see you clean up some of those directions on their assignment a little bit. But honestly, other than that, this is looking really good. Nicely done.